Joining us now on the London Theatre Review is Mathew Baynton. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you.
You will be familiar to many people from Ghosts, Horrible Histories, but you're now appearing in Midsummer Night's Dream for the RSC at the Barbican.
Indeed, I am, yes.
Tell us about that.
So we did it last year in Stratford. No, this year. The beginning of this year in Stratford. Started rehearsing last year, so... and it... Yeah, went well enough for us to get the sort of victory lap at the Barbican.
Right. And it's kind of a sort of counterintuitive Christmas show, isn't it? It is literally a Midsummer Night's Dream in the midwinter.
Yes. I remember, because obviously it was winter when we did it in Stratford, the first meeting I had with Ellie Road, the director, I said, why do it in January? And she said, well, actually, if you read the play... Titania says quite early on that the seasons have all gone awry because of her arguments with Oberon. So it makes sense to do it in the winter.
Yeah.
And also, as a sort of Shakespearean comedy, it has a wonderful resolution of an ending where everyone is in love, everyone is happy, everyone's going to live happily ever after, and that's pretty Christmassy.
I see. Yes, absolutely. And you are playing Bottom, the Weaver.
Am. Yes.
I imagine a large chunk of our audience will probably know who Bottom is, but you tell us who your Bottom is.
Well, he's a weaver, but that's sort of... I don't do much weaving in the show.
Yeah.
He's much more, importantly, an amateur actor who believes himself to be really quite something. So yeah, it's one of those roles. It's sort of, someone read me a list on a podcast before the last run of the people who've played Bottom before, and it's pretty sort of daunting. Yes. But also, when you sort of know that all the great and good of British comedy past have got their teeth into that role, you sort of think, okay,
yes,
my turn.
What was the appeal for you?
It's just such a fantastic comic role. It's sort of one of... I mean, it's iconic, obviously, and for people who know Shakespeare and know that play, but it is just also funny. It's sort of... which isn't necessarily a given, I suppose, you know, that sometimes things loom large culturally and then you actually... read them or watch them and you go, oh, what was the fuss about? Bottom is really very, very funny. I had an image in my head from seeing a school production which really set that he was a sort of ale-swilling yokel. Yeah. Because that was how it was done in that first production that I watched as a kid. And so it had never been a part that had sort of been in my... unwritten list of roles that I hope I'll get to play one day. So I was surprised when the offer came, but then I read the play again and thought, oh yeah, I can see myself doing that.
And is it a big deal doing it with the RSC? I'm aware you've done some stage work over the years, but...
It is, yeah. And in particular being there, and when someone is as sort of... as culturally permanent and solid as Shakespeare is, you know, he's in our everyday language. It's sort of easy to forget. It sounds ridiculous, but it is easy to forget that was a person, a living, breathing person who walked around, and before him there wasn't him, and none of his plays and none of his sonnets. And so to be in Stratford and to walk around and go, he was here, he was a man, and he lived here.
Yes. And
I was in one of the cottages that the RSC own there, which overlooks the garden of the new place. So you're sort of looking out the window in the morning and going, if I could see back in time, I'd be looking at him and his family in their garden.
Yes.
And that so the whole experience for me was sort of magical for
Right.
that reason as much as anything else. And we had a great time doing the show and lovely audiences.
This may be a flippant question, but does it bespeak a sort of yearning for seriousness on your part? That, you know, you've done a lot of TV comedy. Were you itching to do some sort of classical
I'm not
stage
sure
work?
that Bottom is more serious than anything.
And Ghosts,
I'm very grateful for any opportunities I get, and I enjoy I enjoy opportunities to sort of push at my range and test people's sort of idea of what I am or what I do. And I've had those opportunities. I did a couple of dramas last year. I'd certainly wanted to get back on stage. It had been a long time since I'd had the opportunity to. But I've long since learned as well that you don't know what those opportunities are going to be. It's just fate decides, really.
Yes.
You just embrace them when they come.
I understand. To flip the question, do you think there's a sort of hope that you'll be a gateway drug for, you know, fans of Horrible Histories to introduce them to Shakespeare?
For Shakespeare?
Yes.
I would hope so. Yeah. It's certainly not sort of the primary... speaking as someone who was in a show that Horrible Histories, which had a stated educational intent, I'm always slightly wary of viewing theatre as education or viewing theatre as an improving art form.
Improving, yes.
You know, I really bulk at that, the idea that you're meant to pay your money to sit and be improved, which implies probably a little bit bored.
Right. Yes.
You know, I really believe that there's an obligation to entertain. And I don't mean that in necessarily in an end of the pier way, you know, it's a broad church, but I do sort of, I'm very happy when I see something that takes that contract seriously.
Yes.
Because theatre tickets aren't cheap. And particularly if it's people who, you know, just don't have cash to burn, you really want them to feel like, yes, I made the right choice spending my money on this, you know, and to leave the theatre feeling different to how they arrived. And, you know, the function of any art form, I suppose, is that making you feel different.
Yes.
At the end of a book, do I feel different? You know?